Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Now today in 2020, I would like to take this opportunity to update my old video in regards to the Genuine Temporary Entrant criteria. What is this? The acronym is GTE. You've probably known this and heard this from a lot of agents and schools, institutions, universities, the school services people. Now, what is this? This is actually a policy that was made, a legislative instrument, policy made by Australian government to actually assess whether or not you are a genuine student, genuine international student coming to Australia to study in Australia. So there are a lot of details in here. Now, the reason I want to take an opportunity to explain this and update this with the current 2020 policy is because that we know that 90% of your student visa refusal or cancellation or rejections are based on this GTE facts. Okay, so let's go through the actual legal law and regulations, and then we will take you to the actual explanation and also our comments and how we could tackle this GTE issue here. Okay, let's go into first is the actual law. So we can see it's actually under the clause 500.212. It may look very simple, but in the actual detail of how the immigration officer, case officer assess your application is with a lot of details in there. So the regulation basically says that the applicant has to be a genuine applicant, of course, for entry of student visa, and intend to genuinely stay in Australia temporarily, so temporary, not permanently, and they will assess in regards to your circumstances, immigration history, if you're a minor, do you have a parent or legal guardian to be with you, and any other relevant matter that includes a lot of details. So that's why we're going to take you in there. So if you just follow the law or follow a simple version of what immigration website or web page actually guides you, you probably will end up with a rejection. So there's actually a lot of detail fine-tuned to a way that a case officer could actually give you a positive approval. Okay, so there's a lot of record compliances and condition that they will also assess as well. So this actually takes us to the actual ministerial legislative instrument. As you can see, this is only being enacted in 2016, and in fact it was the 1st July 2016, and today is the 2nd week of July 2020, so exact 4 years ago. Now the reason I want to get an update is there has been a lot of recent queries comments in regards to they are holding a appeal against the immigration at AAT because their visa was refused or rejected. So and I know that 90% of these are caused by the GTE Direction 69. So that's why I wanted to take this opportunity to share this information out. Now if you don't not able to find this, you can actually type in Google Home Affairs in space GTE or space direction number 69. You can actually take this is all public information. Okay, so the preamble is pretty simple, as what I have explained. Basically, they wanted to identify a genuine international student. Now, since the enactment of this law, Australia International Education has leveraged its level to a certain degree, where it had overtaken UK as the second largest international education destinations, based on that they have raised up the level of the the educational qualifications. So it's a good thing. It also comes with a bad thing, because the visa application become more complicated in a sense. Okay, so they are basically looking at these 4 matter. Okay, and these are we have just gone through under the regulation. It may seem very simple, but it actually covers a lot of details here. So first thing first, again, it says, let me see if you can read this. Yes, okay, now assessing genuine temporary entrant criterion, the decision maker, that's the immigration case officer who actually assessing your application, should not use these factors as a checklist, of course, but then they well, from how I view it, they still use it as a checklist. But the intention of the lawmaker of the department is that they want the case officer to use this and look at the overall arching circumstances of the application as a whole, not just ticking through everything, because everybody has a different background, and everybody comes from different country background, employment, career, everybody has their different view of the future. Why is it they are taking this course, not that course? So they want the case officer to be, you know, using this not just a checklist, but to work smarter. But again, that's not what I wanted to comment on, but let's have a read through them, okay? They want the case officer to consider all factors as a whole and consider any other relevant matters. So decision maker may request additional information if they want to. So in pretty general, if you were a engineer previously and suddenly you wanted to enroll into a university in Australia to study agriculture, now that's contributing to your previous background, and that generally would trigger the immigration officers to send a request asking you to to tell us the reason that why you want to change your career, and utilizing all your background factors. Now, how we work as a professional, we don't do it in reflect to the request from the immigration officer, but we will tackle it at the beginning, at our cover letter and our GTE statements. You will write that at the beginning, at the lodgement of your visa, to explain why. I think that's a better way to tackle your visa application. And obviously they will scrutinize as they found this information, either statistical intelligence or analysis report showing that there's a fraud. Well, that's not I haven't seen any student visa application being involving fraud thus far, but that's one key. Looking into your immigration history, that's how many visas and how many countries you've been traveling. Have you contravened? Have you breached any visa condition or law? Your field of unrelated, and that's what I'm saying. If the field of your study is unrelated to your background, they will usually trigger the red alarm, and they want to ask why. Okay, inconsistency of information. So you may say that you have been employed in such and such a place for such and such a period, and the immigration officer can request, say, please provide proof. And if you cannot provide proof, then that's inconsistency, and that would trigger a rejection or refusal of the visa application as well. And then what they're looking at is your circumstances in your back home, and the visa that you currently held or you had previously held. So the circumstances in home country, what they're looking at is why you wanted to study in Australia, why not staying at your home country and study there. So you need to provide a reason. The reason can possibly be, well, there's a better opportunity, better quality of education in comparison to what you actually being offered in your home country, better experience perhaps, but you need to write those reasons, okay? And you need to show you still have that personal tie with your home country, that including your family, financially, so that can show that after the graduation or completion of your studies, you are willing to return back home, and that connects to the economic circumstances. So again, that's what I'm saying, how much money you have back home. Okay, if you have shown nothing back home, it's likely that you will overstay in Australia, and that's why they're trying to see whether or not there's a military service commitment, and you are basically using student visa to dodge the military commitments. That's very unusual. I haven't seen any like this. Now, a lot of people do get into this situation where there's a political civil unrest of your home country, and you basically using student visa to actually getting away from your home country. Again, that doesn't meet the criteria as you're not a genuine student. So if that is the case, there you probably will, you will consider a protection visa rather than a student visa. They don't want people to come using student visa to actually perhaps to have other kind of intentions to migrate to Australia. Now, the potential circumstances is that they are looking at whether you have a family in Australia, and there's any possibility that you are utilizing the student visa to prolong your stay in Australia, or perhaps to actually migrate as a step into a general skill migration. It's actually a very interesting point where the government is actually promoting GSM, as you know, the skill migration program, utilizing allowing the applicant to actually come and study and getting more points for your EOI, correct? Now, but under your student visa, if you write that you're coming to study to base a fact to actually migrate, you will probably get a huge rejections in your applications. However, how the department actually reads their pathway is that you have to have a genuine intention to come as student to study as a genuine student first. Now, if you have achieved whatever you have trying to achieve, and that's why they're using EOI, and then the Department of Immigration, they invite you. You might want to leave the country, but they invite you to stay. Now, it's very interesting how they have created this kind of system rather than having the applicant completing your study and then moving into a skill migration program straight away. So you cannot do that, as you know. You have to put in an EOI, then they invite you. Okay, so I think that's why they immigration create this EOI skill select system. So they no longer allow you to actually migrate after you complete your high degree studies. Okay, so that's what they're trying to achieve under the law. Okay, and value of the course. So you need to tell them what's the pros and cons. Generally, you need to tell the pros. So again, if you were an engineer, why are you studying agricultural studies in Australia now? Then you need to tell them. For perhaps you were previously you were an environmental engineer, and you have been working for a while, and you have gained interest during your career to try to understand more about how the agricultural goods that's connected to environmental engineer. So you want to get a further knowledge or discipline, and then moving on to further on into your career. So then that you will get a big tick. But if you cannot explain why you are changing two type of different discipline, then you probably get a huge rejection straight away. So you need to tell them why. What's the future for you here? And so another instance, you may be a accountant back in my home country. You've been working or perhaps just graduated as an accountant, and suddenly you wanted to study a commercial cookeries. Now that's a too extreme. Obviously the immigration will ask, why are you trying to do that? Okay, so you need to tell them. You need to tell your story. You need to tell them why. You need to sell yourself. If you can't sell yourself in your visa applications for a student visa, then you will get a huge rejection as well. And that's why it comes to a professional service where a lot of people do know their story and do know their why, but they don't know how to communicate effectively with the immigration, then you get a rejection, and then you end up in AAT. That's, you know, long-term waiting and wasting a lot of money and you know, monetary resources as well. And finally, they're looking into your immigration history as well. So you may have held previous visas, and you may have previously held multiple different type of visas. They may see, if you do have that kind of history, they may see that you're trying to utilize student visa to actually to prolong your stay in Australia. So that's all the facts there. Now, if you wanted to go into the actual immigration webpage, they do have a simpler explanations here. Obviously, if you click this direction 69, that will get you into the instrument that we have just read through. So you can follow these as a dot point, but it doesn't tell you as detailed as what we have just gone through. Now, the reason that I wanted to record this video is because that I want been recently receiving a lot of inquiries and people being rejected on their student visa, and they purely don't know why. I have been enrolled, I pay my money to the university or the TAFE or colleges or whatnot, and still got rejection. Why? Probably you haven't put enough efforts to actually complete a better GTE statement so that can actually meet the ministerial direction 69. Okay, that's for our video today. Should you have more query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below. And finally, I will ask you to consider subscribe to my channel, so once we have more these insights, informations, you will be the first one getting updated. Thank you for watching, and see you next video. Goodbye.